Hey everybody, welcome to Between the Lines with Chris Curran. I'm your host, and today we have former professional baseball player, pitcher, and New England Razorbacks great, Bud Brown. What's going on, man?
Going on? Thanks for having me, CC.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's always good to chop it up, talk. I mean, we talk normally, but it's just kind of a little bit different now that we actually have you on the podcast. So that's pretty cool, man. How's everything going?
Going good. Going good. Recently started picking up golf. So me being a pitcher, it was a little different. But we're starting to like it. Starting to like it.
Man, so you playing with what? You playing with who? Sam?
Playing with Sam. Yep,
That's
same guy every single day. I mean, we've gone probably 4 or 5 times a week every day. So going good.
now. Now is he good, or are you both learning this together? How's that working out?
In his eyes, he's good. In my eyes, he's pretty good. He's getting there. We're both getting there. We both have that baseball background, both being pitchers, growing up together. I've known him for about 12 years, so it's like kind of different learning like outside of baseball.
That's
So
so cool.
yeah, it's
No,
fun. That's
it's Dude, you need that. You need that competitive edge. I think, as especially in your situation as a former professional baseball player. I mean, that doesn't normally change because I think your competitiveness would have carried on whether you had gone pro or you didn't. But I think especially when you go pro and you live in that world for a little bit of time, it is tough. Like you have to find something to scratch that itch after a little bit because that competitiveness just doesn't leave. That's one of the toughest parts. But let me ask you something. Tell us a little bit about your like background baseball and how you started from the time you were younger.
yeah. I mean, so grew up in Randolph, Mass. Playing over there. Probably maybe 4 years old. I think I was starting. Played played little league in Randolph. Won a Cartwright. It's called a Cartwright Award. So basically, the best 12U player in Randolph. Your boy
Nice.
had to win that. So, but I
Oh
guess
yeah.
my journey really started when we started the Razorbacks. Even before that, with like dirt dogs. So playing club ball over there. Me always being on the shorter side of the aspect. It really everyone kind of overlooked me. I remember going to dirt dogs maybe at that time 4'5". I feel like I would be, but I remember the one day that I met you. You're hitting off the tee, and I was nervous as all hell. And my mom was like, "Hey, like you should talk to him." Like my dad was like, "Hey, like he plays for the Nationals," and I was like, "All right." I was watching on the outside, and we started chopping it up a little bit, and then I was wearing a black T-shirt. And it said, "Don't sweat my swag"
Oh
during a
yeah.
clip, and I think that was the first time that you're like, "All right, he might be pretty cool." And then so you went back to spring training and I'm outside bawling my eyes out, crying like crazy. My mom was like trying to hold me. I'm like, no, he's leaving. He's never coming back. That was hilarious. And you gave me, I still have the hat. It's the Express hat. And you cut out the sides because you're like, man, I got a weird shaped head at times. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like chopped like right here. So I was like, I still have the hat.
That's funny, man. Yeah, because at the times, man, like when you're wearing, there's such a big difference between like town ball hats and then when you get that actual,
Yeah.
new era hat. It's a little
Yeah.
tight on the sides. You're playing in the summertime, so your head's like swelling up from the sweat, and your hat just shrinks as well with all the sweat. So you end up taking a beat, and so a lot of the players cut the sides of the hats by like the brim area so that you have a little bit of flexibility with it. But no, that's so funny, man, because you guys at Dirt Dogs were so good at such a young age.
At young age.
So that's just yeah. And then you guys did that, and then at what age did you guys go to Razorbacks? Was that at 14 or
Yeah,
15?
2014. 2014,
Okay.
because I remember because my dad's email is 2014. That's the only
Oh
reason.
yeah.
Right. So, but I mean, if you talk about the Razorbacks age, that era that we were going through, I mean, there was a point that we didn't lose a game for 2 straight years. It was Mother's Day to Mother's Day for 2 straight years.
And you guys played a lot of games. I remember like one year you played over 125 games.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't like, you're not going to little leagues and playing teams there. I mean, we're facing the best in the country. I mean, we're going down to national tournaments, Myrtle Beach, Georgia, Nashville, and winning. Team that was carrying 11 people.
Just constantly competed and what were you guys ranked like 68th 67th in the country, something along those lines?
Yeah, 64th in the country. We were the
64.
number 2 in Massachusetts. Roughnecks were they were ahead of us, but I mean they were carrying 26 guys, some Power
Yeah.
5 on ACC, SEC schools, and we're carrying 11, 11 people, and one of those people were Jack Benjamin that never got off the bench. He would throw
PO.
his 6 innings and be done.
Yeah, the first definition of a PO
Yep.
in most of the
At
guys'
14.
eyes.
At 14, that was funny. But I mean, it was crazy
That's
though. Like
awesome.
it was, we didn't lose. No matter where we went, we were gonna be the best.
Oh, yeah, and you guys had such a great team of like goofballs too. So,
It was
but
us.
whenever the game started up, you guys would still crack on each other, but you guys just used to whoop teams. Like games were long, but they were short. Like you didn't play the full 7 to 9 innings, but it felt like the longest game because you guys would score like 17 or 18, and you'd put up like 10 in the first inning, and you're like, this is going to be a long day.
Yeah. Yeah, we played a team from Worcester. They showed up an hour and a half before game. They're stretching, throwing, all that stuff. They're doing the bands, and then we came in, 7 us in the car, and like 20 minutes of game time. Just got up there. We put up 30 runs in 2 innings, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not playing the second game." Like that's just what it was.
From an umpire standpoint, you can't stop the game after like 2 innings and 30 runs. You're like, you got to play so many, or you have to meet the time limit of
Yeah,
the game.
it was just kept happening. We just kept scoring. I mean, it was kind of like if you look at our lineup, I think we had 3 kids go to for college baseball. Easily could have been all 11 of us.
Hands down.
Easily, like Kyle Berg, he went to Penn State. Luke Murphy went to a big time SEC school. And we had great hitters, great pitchers constantly. We were just throwing strikes, get outs.
And it's funny to say that too because the smallest guy on the team ends up going professional. So it's like you guys could have had a number of college guys and professional guys, but
Absolutely.
it does get to a certain point where high school becomes really fun for some, and that die hard that you guys have at 12, 13, 14, all the talent was there. And I know everyone says that too, of like, yeah, but you're good when you're 12, but are you good when you're 18? It's like everyone was good. It's just the pursuit is different. There's a certain fight inside of certain people that
Absolutely.
that might die at 15 or 16, and some people might
Yeah.
die at 40.
Yeah.
You
No,
just
like
never
that's
know.
you talk to different people, but everyone you really talk to, like say, the normal guy is probably 6 feet. Right. We're just gonna throw that out there. They're like, all right, I go here, I go to Division 1 baseball, and then they might move on. But so I went to CM, right? And it was probably my sophomore year. Coach was like, "Hey, I don't really see you making the team." And I said, That's fine with me." So I decided to go to Montgomery, Alabama for baseball. I was traveling there every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Come home Monday through Thursday. I'm back in Alabama because that's where I wanted to go to an academy out there. And so played out there for the summer, had a blast. Still talk to a lot of the guys. And next year rolls around, senior year, I went out there and because I've always wanted to play down south.
Same thing. Same with me. I always knew I wanted to go to Miami.
Yeah.
That's where I wanted to be.
And so I was like, all right, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, that out south, down south, maybe Florida. And so I remember strolling on one day and I was laying down. I was like, all right, I don't want to play for a college out here. Why would I waste my time looking at the schools here unless it was BC or Northeastern? But I knew that I wasn't tall enough. I didn't have the grades for that. So I went for the Upstate Mavericks and had a great summer. Actually played with the Brave center fielder. And he won Rookie of the Year, Michael Harris Young, and Marquise Grissom Jr.
Oh, nice.
Marquise Grissom was at our games. Awesome. Had a great summer. Played
That's
against
so cool.
unbelievable competition. It's funny. So we're in Georgia at Lake Point, and it was an 8 a.m. game. We're playing Team Elite. They had Kumar Rocker, that is now with the Rangers. Matt Leiter, now with the Rangers. And, Ethan Hankins has played high. He went to Double A. 8 a.m. game, and here I am. They're throwing 99, and I'm like 75 with slider. Like, all right, this is pretty cool. I'm playing same field as these guys, so you kind of meet different people. Like, it's unbelievable.
You just got to be a gamer too.
You have
That's the
to.
biggest story. I've talked to so many people that are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", professional athletes that I played with for years, and it's something that everyone there has always talked about of like the smaller guys, you have to be careful because they're scrappy. They've always been like behind the eight ball their entire life, so they're going to be the gamers. They're not going to be the ones that quit when it gets a little bit tough, or that pitch is called a ball. It's like they're going to throw, you might throw a fit and be upset about it, but you've dealt with that your entire life. So it's that level of resilience that kind of comes with the lack of height. And I know
Yeah,
that too, because
absolutely.
it's the same thing for me. It's always been that's why I always enjoyed working with smaller players, because you get to see the dog in them of like, no one's going to help you. There's no freebies. No one's going to care. And everyone's going to give you an out by saying, well, you were a little bit smaller. You weren't as fast. You weren't as strong. And it's like, well, come to terms with that now and make peace with it, because you're always going to be able to fall back on that. And those are some of the stories that you'll always hear. That, and I would have got drafted, but I got hurt. I would have got
Yeah,
drafted,
right.
but this, and I would
Yeah,
have played professional baseball, but this, and it's like, give
that
it a shot. Yeah, go out there and do it. It's not easy.
I forget where we were. We're at a tournament, and some guy was like, I would have played professional baseball, but I got hurt. And you're sitting there, and I know it drives you crazy because recently it's driving me crazy. You're like, well, I had Tommy John. No, you didn't.
Yeah, this is two ways that you approach it. Like, one, it doesn't bother you all that much because you've come to terms with that's a common saying. That's a classic baseball quote. But the other side of you, depending on if it catches you on a bad day, it takes away from all the hard work that you did and other people did for them to say, well, I would have. Because you've played with the rare instances of like, no, that guy should have gone pro, or that guy should have gotten drafted, but he actually got injured.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
clear difference. And I talked to, I'm good friends with CJ Lauriello. He's on the podcast as well. And like at Miami-Dade, I think he was the only one who had a higher batting average than I did. I think he hit 430 or 460 at Miami-Dade, went to Bethune-Cookman, swept all the awards, and actually got hurt. So when he wasn't drafted, that's one of the people you're like, how didn't he get drafted? And then you find out and you're like, no, that's a guy who would have went pro.
yeah. No,
You know?
like you said earlier. I was really good at 12, but baseball wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So
But
it's kind of funny. Listen, talking to other people, you meet a lot of different people. Like
yeah.
down south, they're like, I've been playing for 12 months straight year, the whole year through. Like, well, I have 7 feet of snow. That's where the dog comes out in some people, and that's where they have it or they don't have it. That's what it comes down to.
That was one of the toughest parts, and I'm sure you can agree too, is like when you do go down south, you are playing or competing against people for a job, and they've probably played 2 to 3 times as many games as you. It almost feels like they're years ahead of you because they've worked out so many kinks and they've run into so many so-called slumps in their life that they've kind of matured baseball wise in so many ways. Yeah, going down to Florida, we started up in Miami. I think my freshman year I was competing against this unbelievable center fielder who had transferred, and he was an absolute stud, and he would have started for probably any college. I'm comfortable saying almost any college. Unbelievable fast. He was jacked. He was like, I don't know if he was rookie of the year the previous year, but he was unreal. And I went off in January and won that starting center fielder job. And literally, I came home on December 17th for 2 weeks. And then I got to Miami probably a week before we started up our preseason stuff and just worked my tail off to try to get to that point. And I think just everything lined up when statistically it shouldn't have. Like,
Yeah,
know what it's like to go from down south back to Massachusetts, back down south, and for those 2 to 3 weeks or 2 months, they haven't stopped playing.
they haven't stopped playing. Yeah,
There's no rust to get off. They're just always in it.
yeah, and I feel like they have some facilities that are outside. I'm surely convinced that I could have went D1 if all I had to do was send videos.
Yeah.
Because you throw a bullpen inside, you echo it a little bit, and it looks gross. But then you have big country stepping up to the plate. How are you gonna attack him?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's different. It's different when the lights turn on and the game actually starts, and it's like, Dude, whether I'm throwing 83 or 93, we're going to find out who gets it done. Because I'll tell you what, people have hit a 100-mile-an-hour pitch 100 feet over the fence. They have. Like I've seen it. It's all about being crafty. And if you have the speed, good. But you also have to be crafty in a smart pitcher, which you were,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, it was funny. It was like, I would throw Saturday, and then my dad would be like, "Hey, go back out there and throw on Sunday." Even in like when I was in pro ball, so I was in the Pecos League with Roswell Invaders, Salina Stockade, and Colorado Springs Snow Sox. And you train here, like I was training like crazy, you know. But at Massachusetts, we're sea level. In the Midwest, you're 5,000, 6,000 feet of elevation.
Yeah.
And I remember driving one day and I was like, I'm getting sick in the car. Like you literally get the elevation sickness in a car.
Yeah.
You're playing on top of a mountain, and I have shorter legs, so it takes me a little bit longer to get to first base than PFP. But I remember one day I was pitching against Trinidad in Colorado. I ran to first base. I was gassed. But, like, those people they're used to that, and, like, I was never really a fastball pitcher. I was more an off speed. But there, it's like I had to throw a fastball early in the count to get ahead because therefore I would throw my slider because hopefully they're out in front. But, I mean, it's 5,000, 6,000 feet of elevation. Those balls just fly
Oh yeah.
constantly.
Yeah, you always hear about that about the teams that are located out west about like just the different air
Yeah,
quality
oh,
and how
absolutely.
balls absolutely fly. And like we played in Miami and it was like running underwater because it was so humid. Certain locations just have the different environment and different elements that you have to face. And that was something that when I went down to spring training, you're going from Massachusetts in February and March where that air is really cold, it feels really
It's
thin, it's
yeah,
tough to breathe because it's cold. And then you're going down to like Melbourne, Florida, and it's like breathing underwater and your muscles react differently. Just in itself, never mind, your brain, your mindset of like what is going on.
yeah. No, it's different. I remember I mean, I think it was me, Jack Benjamin, and my dad. We watched you when you were with the Jackals, and we went down to New York Boulders in Paloma. And like just watching you play though, like we're both undersized, and you were like, I'm just better than I can be better than everyone on this field. It doesn't matter. You in center field was the craziest thing. I
Dude, it
love
was
your highlight tape though,
oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think it was awesome though. And then I think you were in Worcester. Not sure if you're batting lead off or where you were at, but it was like a little jerk, and the first baseman just covered the bag, went a little bit too far, and you just bulldozed them. And that guy was like probably 6'7",
Yeah.
and you're like, yeah, that didn't hurt.
Yeah, it was a little different. I played high school football. I was very used to contact. I had three older brothers that used to beat me up when they had the chance, all in fun. But you learn to be a little bit tough, and you don't really. I never really ran away from the physical contact. And I remember playing for the Nationals. If there were missed throws in spring training, you get tired of like dodging the first baseman and landing on your ankle the wrong way. And I remember just certain times of like, I hate to do it, but if someone leans over first base, I'm just running straight into them. And I may not win all of them, but I'm pretty damn fast. So I'm not going to lose all of them either.
Yeah,
And
that's
it, and really I think my last year or two in 2011, 2012 with the Nationals, I was like aiming for catchers. I was kind of looking for it in a way of like, dude, if you're in the way, I'm not backing down. So
gonna run
I
through
don't
you.
I really hope you learn to stay out of the way. And that kind of became my thing where I would start running into catchers. And my buddy Adrian Nieto, he was a catcher for the Nationals, the White Sox, and stuff like that. And he jokes about it too, of like, leave those catchers alone type of mentality. And it went for first basemen too. If I would bunt to third and the third baseman threw the ball off balance and that first baseman had to reach, I'm not blowing out my ankles so that you're safe.
Yeah, I'm gonna run. I'm just gonna
You
run.
better, yeah. In my mind, as a competitor, and when I stepped between those lines, it was kind of like I'm not taking it easy on anyone. That dog would come out. That growing up, growing up broke would come out, you know. So I took that out. I brought that mentality to the field anytime I played, man, and it was I don't regret it for a second. Even the times I got hurt.
But I mean, there's so many stories. Like before, when you texted me to start it, you're like, "Hey, I'm going to start a podcast," and like instantly, I just thought of so many memories
Yeah,
of
yeah.
of us growing. Like I've always looked up to you because again, we were the same height. And you just carried yourself a lot different, and I think we kind of had that bond since day one. And two stories that kind of stick out to mind. One time, I think it was in Marshfield, and I think we are like just opened up a new facility, kind of like renting it out. And I remember my dad was going crazy against the team, just yelling at him like that. And I'm on the ground, and every time I'd stand up, you just push me back over. I couldn't get off the ground. You just kept rolling me, and these kids ended up fighting for their life. And I just like I couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, what the hell, man? Like,
I
yeah,
remember that. I remember that. Your dad he was pissed because he was laying in on these kids, but me and you was like big brother, little brother. And you were a wrestler at the time. So for me, I'm like, find your way up, and just kept like rolling you across the ground. You just kept getting up and dodging. And
oh,
no, you
that
start having those. Like we've been around
yeah,
each other forever.
forever. I mean, there's like I said, there's so many stories. We're in Connecticut. Again, you being a center fielder, you're like, just I did it, so you can do it, right?
Hmm.
I remember we always would talk about hey, why'd you do this? Well, and you always be like, I can do it. I did it, so go out there and do it.
Hmm.
And I swear to God, this ball, to this day, I'm convinced that ball hit the fence, and I didn't catch it. And I come in, you're like, I would have had it. Like that ball was 9 feet up the wall. You're like, yeah, it would have ran up there and caught it.
Yeah, that ball was hit. That ball was hit very well. We'll say that. That competitiveness in me is always going to do it. And to be fair to you, I was so fresh out of baseball. So that was probably in what 2014, 2015. I had
Yeah.
officially retired in maybe 20 like January 2014. I
Yes.
I think it was that. So it was literally so close to me playing and having that dog still in me that anyone who played center field, your dad, the head coach, was always going to compare him to me. And you happened to be in center field that day. And,
I don't know
that
why I was
ball
in
was
center
hit.
field.
To be honest, you didn't misread it. It was hit so far over your head, your first step, you just sprinted back. You weren't like trying to guess on, is this back, is it in? You like immediately we saw your numbers turn. And I remember your dad like turned to me and he's like, you think we could catch it? I'm like, I would.
I would have caught it.
Dad used to joke too because all of you guys were bigger than me, that I could probably put on a uniform and get away with it.
Well, I think I'm not sure if it was the same tournament or what, and I can't remember if you were coached at third or first, and the umpire came up and was like, "Hey, like tell the player to put on a helmet."
Yeah, I was at first base and I was like, oh.
And my dad was like, "Yeah, he plays for Nashville, so like
Yeah, I was like,
he's
yeah,
he's 47."
your dad's like, yeah, last year he played with Bryce Harper, you know, type of thing. Oh man, no, it was unbelievable watching you guys get to play, and that was one of the tough parts about coaching your team as well, is because like when Benji was on the mound, he would throw like 10 pitch innings, 11 pitch innings, and then you jerks would be up for like 35 minutes. So I'd be stuck at third. Like after the first inning, your dad would be like, hey, you want to coach third? I'm like, yeah, sure, man. I'll wave him home. And in his mind, he knew like, no, you're going to be over there for like
Oh,
35 minutes.
wild.
And I'm going to be at first base and go back to the bench and eat French fries. So I learned
Yeah,
not to coach third base or the base furthest from the dugout whenever you guys played.
yeah. I mean, we would run a play, and we call it Curry. So we actually got it from Curry College, with Jay Schnabel as the coach, and we ran it so I was the hitter. We'd have a runner on second and third, and I would lay down a bunt, and we would score the person from second.
Hmm.
And I think I led AAU in RBIs. I don't think I've ever hit the ball out of the infield. I think I just would get 2 RBIs, because I would have the fastest person on second.
Oh yeah,
And
and the leads were crazy at second
well,
base.
it'd be
They'd be,
shortstop.
Yeah, they'd be past the shortstop, and as soon as you bunt, infielders are moving.
Yeah.
Coaches are directing their attention to the pitcher, home, and the hitter. And people aren't watching the guy who's literally stealing third base. As soon as that knee lifted up, he was stealing and rounding third. And it was almost they would see the play at the plate almost of like, we got to get this guy. And then all of a sudden you're getting a single and 2 RBIs and you didn't hit the ball out of the infield.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, even if I swung, I don't think I would have hit it out of the infield, but
yeah, it was genius. It was such a
yeah.
genius play, but it also comes down to the execution. You can copy a great play, but
Yeah, you
if
just
you
gotta
don't
run it.
have if you don't have the people to do it, you're never gonna pull it off. But you guys always pulled it off.
So right now I deliver like cancer medicine, all that, like independent contractor, courier service. Um, and every time I see a person broken down on the road, right, I just remember. So I would always eat like a quarter pounder, just a burger and the cheese. And you used to have a white car, and one day, I don't know why I was in the back. We broke down, the tire popped, and they're like trying to jack it up, and I'm sitting in the back of the car.
Like you're sitting in the back of the car, like eating a burger. It's like, get out of the car so we could jack the car up.
And then 4 months later, I was in the back. It was you, my dad, and me. And I go, "Who has this cheeseburger?" And I looked at it. It was like receipt of mine from like 4 months ago. I go, that was mine."
And it's like, yeah, I wasn't sitting in the back seat, and your dad's like, really? And it was like, yeah, because I had these little side compartments
Yes.
in the car. It was a white Hyundai Tiburon. Um, yeah, I loved that car. It was awesome. But yeah, it had those back compartments, and when you would sit back there, you would eat and just dump your trash into the side compartments. And I never knew.
I
I
still
didn't have
do.
any idea. It's
I'll
so
look at my
funny.
car and I'm like, "When did that get there?"
Yeah, you're like, all right, that's just kind of how it works out, man. But it was fun, man. I also had the ability to watch the dynamics of you and your dad, which was like, you guys have always been inspirational to me because I think it might be the closest father and son bond I've ever seen because it wasn't just father son, it was coach and player. So watching you guys toe that line on so many occasions of like, is this coming from a coach or is this coming from my
Yeah.
dad? Is it coming from someone that's doing both, that's trying to teach me a life lesson?
Yeah.
But for you, what was it like having your dad as a coach now that maybe, and if you can explain it a little bit in two different ways. In the moment, how was it? And now looking back, is it the same or is it more meaningful?
So in the moment, it was tough and it was amazing and tough though. I mean, there's different instances that like say I would pitch bad, right? Or hit bad. And then I would be like on the ride home, it's like kind of awkward. And I was a leadoff hitter for some odd reason. But like when he moved me from leadoff to 9 hole, I think he slept on the couch for like 2 weeks because my mom was yelling at him, you know, because she's like, "That's my son," like all of that. But like, you know, with the father son at the time, it was great because I'm like, all right, that's my dad. Like I get to hang out with him for, you know, 4 or 5 hours. But say if I would mess up, then it's like, all right, who is this coming from? 99% of the time, it was my coach. And I think it did help because again, I was a lefty. I was never a shortstop. So I could only play pitcher, outfielder first. So I never really had to deal with like my son's the shortstop. But I mean, we would travel the states away together, and that was awesome. We would go to Georgia, Florida, and all that. I'm like, all right, this is awesome. I get to play baseball with some really good kids. And then my dad's also the coach. And
Yeah.
we put in the best tournaments and we had the best uniforms because like we would just kind of bounce each other's like ideas off. But now it's like we also are practicing and coaching together. And so he has the top 14 team, and I have the second team. And this year we actually played each other in a tournament, and that we lost 6-3. But it was I remember so he was at third base, and I'm coaching third, and I think it was like the sixth inning maybe, and we got bases loaded. Oh, he always had third base. Come on, he wasn't walking.
Yeah.
And again, it was 6-3 last inning, and we get bases loaded. like 1 out, and I have my 3, 4, 5 hitters coming out, and he's shake. He was trying to play it cool, but like he was shaking over there, like he's gonna beat me. But unfortunately, they won the game. But baseball with him, it's like we'll get off a call after an hour and a half of talking about baseball, and then it's like 20 minutes later. Well, I got this idea. Let's do this. We always talk about baseball at the randomest times. Like he does the same stuff I do, so it's 4 o'clock. He'd be like, "Hey, you up?" Like, yeah, because I work at 3:30 in the morning. So we're talking. He was like, "All right, well, next practice we're gonna go over this. Yeah, let's do that."
Him being able to coach you when you're younger, and now that you guys actually kind of coach together and around each other, it just, you continue those conversations that most adults don't have with their father at this point in time. It's kind of like you guys have never stopped. And that's always been such a cool dynamic to be able to see that. And because I also got to see it from on the bench. So I also had to judge myself as an assistant coach for him on how he would talk to players, or how he would talk to you or about you or talk with you during the game, and then when you went out on the field, to try to see the differences between that seems like a father moment or that seems like a coach moment. But he always seemed very fair,
Yes,
because like you said too, you weren't playing shortstop, and he was willing to sleep on the couch to put you from first to ninth because he knew at the time it was what was best for the team.
best for the team.
And that also set the precedent going forward for it. I mean, you didn't really have any riffs from any of the parents, because that's one of the crazy parts about you guys being 64th in the nation, is like all you guys knew each other. You weren't pulling in people from different states. You weren't pulling in some guy from California that threw 95. You guys had all played town ball in, like, it's weird to say, like local travel ball together.
Yeah.
There was never anyone random. Anyone who had played would like sleep over your house, or you guys would all go out to the movies or go out to get food together.
Yeah. I mean, we would travel together, and like we would take a 10-passenger van, like 14 of us. We had less spots with all of our baseball bags, down to New Jersey. And he would be like, all right, 2 hotel rooms. You had people sleeping under the sink. With my dad coaching, it was awesome having him as a coach. But then like he coached me until I was 16 or 17. And because that's when I went down south. And we're facing the Houston Banditos, number
Yeah.
1 in the country. And I think I threw like 5 innings, a couple runs, like 3 or 4 runs. I come out of the game with the lead. And after the game, they brought in a kid that was like 94, 96. It was Nate Lamb. He went to Clemson. I mean, this kid was unbelievable. And he was like, "Why did they take you out? I would have left you in there." And then when I started playing pro ball, again, I was in New Mexico. You guys are 3 hours ahead of us. So we would start the game at 8:30, 8 o'clock at night, and it's 11 o'clock here. So no matter what, him and my mom were always up. They would be checking the live feed. I think that bond that we all have together, like baseball brought us together. Like it's 1 a.m. basically, and they're still watching their son play.
Yeah,
And
you
you
guys
know,
are a you guys have just always been a major baseball family.
absolutely.
100%, like from like mom, dad, son, dogs, just everyone, like all the dogs would go on trips too. Whether it was T-Rex and Curry and just
Yeah.
the entire staff. Like it was a baseball family, everyone's on board. This is what we're doing. Everyone was so invested. And that's one of the reasons why your dad's always been such a great coach, and why you turned out to be such a great baseball player against the visual odds. You weren't the fastest. You didn't throw 95. You're not 6'3". You're not from down south, so scouts are comfortable picking you up knowing that you're throwing all year and you probably have a good regimen. You didn't play for the Houston Banditos, where that there's so much structure in what that place does and how they develop their players. That's why they're so good.
Yeah. No, it's they are light years ahead of us. I mean, you can look at a line, ACC, SEC, Power 5, drafted. And then you get here and it's like, all right, that person is going to go to Situate High, Marshfield High, right? Never played college baseball.
That guy's smoking cigarettes behind the dugout. That guy's talking to that girl.
That's how it was in Brockton. We
Yeah,
played a team in Brockton, and I think at the time we were 16, and they were like 25, and they won the championship against us. And the kids are all drinking beer, and Cam Powers was like, "All right, I got an English test in the morning."
yeah.
Like, it was so funny though.
Yeah, Brockton baseball's it's a little different, and it's definitely changed now. The dynamics of it. Unfortunately, a lot of the I won't say great coaches, but a lot of the historic coaches like Coach Foraker, Coach Seropian, and Digga, and a lot of the people that I had, and even Coach Bill Maloney, who's close to my heart, and I love that guy. They're all out now. So
Yeah,
they're kind of at the point now where they jump around from coach to coach. I don't know if they'll ever be the same, or it may take some time for them to bounce back, but that's kind of how the program out here is headed.
yeah. I think that's like
So,
all of Massachusetts. Again, we're doing travel ball right now. There's no more town ball.
has become the paid version of town ball. It's like, all right, well, everyone just pay money. And it's tough to find some of those programs that are still doing it right, because you have a program that opens up next door. We started seeing it in like 2015, 16, 17, when we were kind of on our way out with the Razorbacks in certain ways as far as having a bigger program. I know like you might have a team or two that kind of carry the torch, but you would just have mom and pop shops like just pop up next door, undercharge everyone and give you a t-shirt. You'd play 10 games and you wouldn't win any of them. But now you had all these good programs that would lose one player here, one player there, and you're on this team still playing 40 games a year. They're playing 10 games a year. And it just kind of watered down baseball in time. And then now anyone's coaching, which is,
And
as long as someone's trying to coach, I love it. If you're meaning to do it in all the right ways, if you're trying to
all of
coach your kid, there's so many great fathers out there that you never necessarily categorize them as great coaches,
Mhm.
but great dads out there that are, hey, I want to coach my kid. You have to think too. There's a father out there coaching the son, and the father's not as good as Rob Brown, and the kid's not as good as Butter Brown, but they're trying to do the same thing. And at the end of the day, none of us play baseball forever. So that was one of the things that I appreciated for people who did that, because it's quality time, man. You're spending time with your kid, and at the end of the day, what really matters besides spending time with the family and friends.
Yeah.
You know
No,
that
it's
that's why I loved being around you guys, because you guys were literally like this family, but you were also hilarious because you had your wild cards. You never knew what Cam was gonna do. You never knew where half the players even were. you know?
no. He had absolutely no idea.
You're
It
like,
was
don't we have a game in 15 minutes?
yeah. I mean, we're the Connecticut Sportplex, and so I think it was like say Saturday, and it's like all right, if we lose this game, we can play at 12 o'clock. But if we win it, we're gonna play at 8 a.m. We lost the game on purpose so we could sleep in a few hours. Like, put that into perspective that we intentionally lost the game so we could so we could sleep in 2 hours because God knows what they were going to be doing at night.
You needed that 2 hours.
Yeah,
You could
yeah.
have you could have won that game
And
and
then the
then
one,
stayed up. Like you had certain players that would stay up till 8.
Alex Kennedy,
AK. Yeah. He was unreal, man.
he would
He could ball out, dude. He had a swing, That kid could swing.
he could hit it. Like, we would play at Easton As, and he would put it out at 13 at a college field at 13 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, he was unreal. He had some pop, man. He could run, he could throw. You could put him in the outfield. He was a catcher. He could hit. He could do it all.
He was a 5 tool player, but a zero like feel guy. And I think that's the thing with us Razorbacks was like we had feel, but then zero feel in the same sense.
Yeah, yeah. You guys were all swagged out, but didn't know to be there, an hour before the game
No, you
type
know
of
who that
thing.
stems from? Rob Brown. He's like, I gotta get my supreme coffee.
Man, we would show up late to games, and he would always have his coffee. He's like, "Hey, do you want me late with a coffee, or do you want me on time without a coffee?" And people are like, "Okay, just get the coffee."
Get the coffee. I
Because you
remember
knew
it was
you were going to
yeah.
get a better version. You were going to get a better coach of having Rob when he had his coffee.
It was we're playing a random team. After the first inning, we're down 5-0. First of all, we weren't on third base. So I don't know why that happened. And so we're on first base. He comes over because we're all sitting on the bench. He takes the bench and just throws it down the hill. And he goes, "Once you guys get up 10 runs, you can take it back." I don't even think we were crossing home plate. All of us went to go get that bench and just marching like the Muppets up the hill with a bench so he could sit back down.
Just to prove a point. Like, all right, let's put up a 10 spot and get the bench.
We can put up 30.
Yeah.
We won the championship, I think, in AAU. And I remember you were playing. I'm not sure if you were still playing, but you were coaching with us. And you had the white Razorbacks hat and the cancer jersey, black
Hmm.
shorts, red academia. Because I
Oh,
actually
yeah.
looked at the picture the other day. And I think we won the championship 17.
Yeah. Yeah. And wasn't that against like one of the D1A teams too? It was something like that's supposed to be the top level of this area. Was like, yeah, D1, D1A. Those are kind of the different divisions, and the D1A was like the elite of the elite type of thing. And yeah, I remember you guys smoking that team and almost thinking to myself, that's either not a D1A team, or but I also knew how good you guys were. So that's where it was kind of different, where it didn't really matter the stature of the other team. I just knew if I ever had to bet my entire house on a game, it's probably going to be those games.
It's going to be the games that we are just going to clobber teams. You know, and now look forward to it. Like all of us have jobs,
Hmm.
and at a blinking of an eye, it's like now coaching baseball. It's like people are like, "Oh, like that's awesome, like that you guys were good." I wish I could go back, take a video of everything that we did, and then show it to these guys because they have no idea, right? Like we won 130 straight games.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can't even play video games and win 130 straight games. You
I know.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and you can't explain it.
it's so true too. And I always look at it too because when I played high school and even college, people didn't have their cell phones out recording all the games and at bats and stuff like that. So, I mean, my last year of playing professional baseball, I think was in 2013. I think
Yeah,
Instagram just came out in like 2012. Like Snapchat wasn't that old. Like Facebook's only a couple years old at that point in time. So, when I was playing, you didn't have players all over Instagram and recording everything. And so nowadays, these guys, when you tell them what you did and how you did it, they almost can't really believe it.
say if we lost a game, I mean, it would be like weeks later, and we're still thinking about that loss. And then now it's like, all right, what time is the Patriots on it? You know,
Yeah,
that's how watered down travel baseball is. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't.
yeah.
You know?
Especially in this area. In
Oh,
this area
absolutely.
in Massachusetts, it gets tough. And I mean, I've seen that in the city of Brockton over the past, geez, 20 years. I mean, I think we were like 10-2 to start. To start out the high school year, playing CM in St. John's Prep in BC High. Um, I don't know if I said Severian, but I played against Alex Hassan um, in high school probably two times out of the 18 to 20 games we played. And he went to Duke and was drafted by the Red Sox and pitched at a high level and threw mid to high 90s. Like, that's who we faced type of thing. And then you look at some of these other schools and they're facing people who are throwing 60. It's like you should win 15 games. You should win 14 games if you call yourself competitive.
It's unbelievable. You could be facing a good organization, but it's like, all right, you're gonna face this team's blue team. What team is that? Is that their
Yeah.
top guys?
Yeah, especially now, like you said too, because it's like in certain programs. I'll make sure to say that because there's still good ones out there. In certain
Absolutely, absolutely.
programs, it can be a glorified town. So it's
Yes.
like, you have a red, white, and blue team, and you're like, boy, let's see if this team even has 9 players. But I think it's good when you can latch on to a good team, when you can kind of make a breakthrough. Because even for the Razorbacks, when we coached, we had some players that they weren't the best players. And you could probably look at them and say, this kid's probably not going to play high school. But some of the greatest kids, greatest parents. It took me time, and it was very tough for me, just like for you, where you're fresh out of baseball too. You're
Yeah.
a couple years out of baseball where you're going to look at people and you're like, don't you care? And one thing I had to learn too was they're not you. That kid doesn't want to play professional baseball. That kid is going to really benefit from being on a team and having team camaraderie and knowing what it's like to have people that depend on him and for him to depend on them. There's nothing better than seeing maybe one of the unpopular kids get cheered for after he gets a hit or a hit by pitch or catches a fly ball that maybe 2 years ago he wasn't going to. I think those are some of the most gratifying moments outside of you guys having amazing success, because sometimes
Yes.
they can be the polar opposites. You can see you play professional baseball and someone like Nixon Nicola being drafted and playing professional baseball as well, to seeing the kid that maybe wasn't going to play sports now become well known in his town because he plays for a good program and has a bunch
Yeah.
of friends.
I remember we'd always talk about like you don't know the kid's home life.
100%.
And this might be the only 2 hours that something might not be going on in the home life. So let's make it the best opportunity for him. And I think that's what
100%.
we did a great job at Razorbacks, with that. And I remember when I think we were in Hanover on Circus Street, like we had the players lounge with like two
Hmm.
PlayStation snacks, Gatorades.
100%. The number one thing is you got to be able to provide that environment for them too. And I think because your dad's a goofball, me and you are goofballs. I think from not only being able to offer a good level of coaching for an affordable price, I think when you go in there with the perspective of, well, none of us grew up with money, so we really respect the dollar. I'm not going to be here to snatch your money. I value the fact that you guys chose us, and it's not easy to make those payments for a 10-year-old to play AAU baseball. And by the way, this is when AAU baseball was still competitive, right? This is when in Massachusetts, it's not often you find programs that are playing 30, 40 games, that start their off-season workouts in September, like 2 weeks after tryouts. Most places we kind of do one practice or two practices a week from November to March, and then we just start the season. We literally open the doors of like, okay, so you wrestle and you have wrestling on Wednesday nights. Well, come on Thursday night to this team's practice. The rule is don't disrupt them. Be respectful because it is their team's practice, but you have to get in your work. And we always kept that open for people to say, like, you can play other sports and not miss out what you've paid for here and what you have the right to have at this house.
It's definitely we're all family at that point.
For me as a product of Brockton, it was literally what saved my life. If I didn't play sports, who
Yeah.
knows where it would have been, because I was part of the wrong crowd for so many years until I actually woke up and started taking baseball serious. And this is with a lot of great mentors. This is with a lot of people who have helped me out. For me, a lot has gone right in my life. I'm not someone who can really play the victim card. There's been the right people at the right time to keep me out of serious trouble.
Mhm.
And that's something that I made sure I never forgot as I've gotten older.
Like again, like you said, you're from Brockton. It saved you. And baseball is like just everything that I've done has because of baseball. And I'm not sure. I think maybe 2011. I think when you were at Dirt Dogs with us, maybe
Yeah.
right around that age.
Hmm.
And it's 2025 right now. Could just because of baseball. Baseball
That's
has
it.
brought us together.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, and because of Kayla. But
Yeah.
that's another conversation.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's one of the favorites. And that's something that as I talk to other parents and people at my job about certain things, if whether it's with their kids or their nephews or their cousins, whatever it is, and I always say one of the biggest things is to get people into something.
Yes.
because you develop, you turn into someone else being around other people, and you have to be able to navigate and learn that. What was it like transitioning out of baseball? That's one question that I know from personal experience that I ask all athletes that played competitively or just have that dog in them.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're asking me on a Thursday, right? It's gonna it changed from Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday. Like sometimes I'll be driving and I'll be going to like Burlington, Vermont, 5 hours away, one trip, one way, and then have to drop off the beast and drive it back. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, if I was 6 foot, I wouldn't be doing this right now.
Yeah.
I would still be playing, but I still want to be the best at what I do. Doesn't matter what it is. Like
Hmm.
again, I just picked up golf and I want to be the best out there. But I have a $2 swing, but I'm still working on it. But I'm like, I hit a bad shot and people are like, oh, like it's golf, it's hard. I'm like, no, I'm still competitive. Like I want to be the best, no matter what it is. Like I'll be, making a delivery and my worker is like, all right, it'll take you 2 hours. And I'm like, "Nah, it's gonna be an hour and 50 for me. I'm gonna beat that person. Like it doesn't matter. I want to be doesn't anything in life. I just want to be better, the best version of myself because we're on this earth for not a long time. You know,
It's true.
if if you look at the seconds and days in potentially years, yeah, that's a long time. But what else you could be doing something to make yourself a better person. And that's where I think I've always looked up to you, right? Is like I'll text you randomly, like, hey, what do you think about this situation? And then we'll talk about it for 30 minutes. And then the next second, we're like, hey, what you have at McDonald's the other day?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting, man, because you meet lifelong friends along the way, and you never know when you're going to meet them, how you're going to meet them, or how long people are going to be there. And that's what it's the saying on time. It's like the older you get, the faster it goes. When you're younger, you're like, I can't wait to be an adult. I can't wait to be in high school. I can't wait to play college. I can't wait to play professional. And then the time goes, and then all of a sudden you're talking about the past because maybe in so many ways your best baseball days were now behind you, type of
Mhm.
thing. And that's always a tough pill to swallow because you don't really feel old, and for you, you're at that middle age of like being out of baseball for a couple years, where me, I've been out of baseball for quite some time now. I forget the last time I played, I was 24, 25,
Yeah.
and that's over 12 years ago at this point in time. So I've had a little bit of time to transition out of it, and you definitely go through some of the waves.
Yeah.
That can
I
be one
mean,
of the toughest parts.
when I was in New Mexico, like we had to drive our own cars, right? And I remember we took a trip from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Austin, Texas. 13 hours. So we finished the game at, I think it was like 10 p.m. We had like a 4 p.m. game the next day. It was 13 hours with time change, right? And I had 5 people in my car, right? And I'm like, you're looking around and it's like, all right, I want the drive to be done. But it's like, I'm never going to experience this again. 5 close friends traveling states together. And then you look, then the blink of an eye, it's like, all right, now I'm waking up at 3:30 in the morning for work. Then it's like, all right, I think I, I think I personally gave everything to the game of baseball, right? I gave every success to it and it's like, I think was Moneyball. It's like, you just don't know when that game's gonna be done. It might get done. You might get done told at 20. You might be get told at 40.
It's so true. You never know. I think it goes hand in hand with every player feeling like, if the pitch went this way or the hit went this way, my story would have been different. And I've had that in so many ways. Um, I was talking to a buddy about this a couple months ago because we were talking about our careers and stuff like that, and he was like, you kind of tried to do the Baker Mayfield before making money. So in 2008, when I played and was drafted by the Nationals, I had a great year. I hit over 300. Things were looking good. That was rookie ball. I move up to low A the next year, And 3 weeks into the season, I dive for a ball, back at the
Yeah.
wall and like dislocate or broke my thumb. So, like a stubborn Brockton kid, I'm like I can play through it. And I had just been moved to center field like a week before that because our original center fielder, Marcus Jones, he was unbelievable. He like blew his Achilles. Because remember, this is like March in Maryland and Ohio. So it's like our first
Freezing.
game, my first professional baseball game was in Ohio. I think is it Lake County? I forget I think it was like the Cleveland, at the time, the Cleveland Indians organization.
Yeah.
And it was like 31 degrees.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're like blowing out hamstrings and stuff like that. It was unbelievable. I ended up getting moved. I dove and I tried to play through it. So for like the rest of the year, I was like rolling everything over. And instead of sitting out and being maybe smart and thinking about the long term, the stubborn side of me was like, no, I got this. Like, I can play through it. I'll be fine. Yeah, fine. I hit like, I think I hit like 210 that year. And I started questioning everything
You question everything.
on everything. I had been nothing but successful, and I had gone through the highs and lows, but stayed even keel. And that was one of the first times I had faced that level of bad play for that long. Because it was months. Like, it was months of me not even being able to swing a bat type of thing. So from that, your stock drops, and then all of a sudden, in 2010 comes by, you find yourself in extended spring training. And, things change. And they went back up after that. But you get hit with some hard truths throughout your baseball career where you're like, is that the moment that maybe I should have sat or not?
Yeah.
And for me,
Yeah.
I'm happy how everything played out. That comes in time with like, you start to get closure on certain things. Like, no, everything was supposed to happen how it was supposed to be. I was supposed to be 5'7", 140 pounds when I was drafted. I was supposed to, unfortunately get hurt in the times that I did for me to have the life that I have today.
Yeah.
Maybe
'Cause I mean,
all of those things were supposed to happen.
yeah. Because I remember when you started getting hurt with like the staph infections, right? And I remember we're sitting down one day at the facility, and I remember you looked at me like, I just don't know how much I have left, right? At that point, I'm like 15, and I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, keep on playing. And then fast forward 7 years, I'll never forget it. I'm in Texas, and I got hit around like hard, right? Like everything that I thought I was doing, like I'd throw like a fastball up and in, they would just turn on it. And I'm like, how are you hitting that pitch right now? Right? I put in so much work that it's like, all right, you got out of the game. I remember I went to the locker room and I'm like, this might be it. This might be the like, what am I doing? I'm 23 years old, just getting hit around. And in the same sense, it's like, all right, I'm 23. I'm in Austin, Texas right now. People my age are drinking beer and smoking cigarettes at 9 a.m. But I'm making money. I'm doing what I love. And I'm like, all right, it might not be that bad. And the following year, I was in, was it Long Island Ducks first spring training playing against them. And Lombo was there and Daniel Murphy. And I remember so I'm pitching. I pick up my head, Daniel Murphy at the plate, and I'm like, all right. I remember I stepped off, and I'm like, this is awesome. This guy was. I'm not sure if he ended up winning a World Series, but with the Mets, but he was definitely a great player.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never forget it. So I think it was like a 2-2 count. I dotted a fastball in a part of the plate. And I'm like, I just struck out Daniel Murphy. So I throw it. I walked around. The guy was like, ball. And I was like, where the hell did that miss? Eventually I got him to pop out to my third baseman. But after the inning, he was like, I go, hey, where did that miss? He goes, I'm not going to ring up Daniel Murphy. So, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Like, hey, thanks, buddy. No, I could have been striking out an MLB guy, but nah, don't worry about it. Thanks.
No, it's a courtesy call for a vet. You start to realize that kind of stuff. I've gotten those even as a hitter. When I first started playing like 28 and up leagues and stuff like that, and park leagues, I felt like there were certain calls at certain moments, and umpires knew I was fresh out at that time. They're like, I don't know if you can call that on him. And there'd be certain calls where I'm like, you
You
sure
sure?
that guy was kind of like right down the middle? And I wouldn't say it because like you don't want to
Yeah.
break that.
You don't.
The biggest thing is you at least acknowledge like, okay, you gave me one. The next one is not going to be so lucky.
It's like
It's remembering that stuff.
when I mean you have a different experience, but like you were drafted and actually made it to where what was the highest? Was it double A, triple A for you?
So, yeah, so the highest I made it was like a little bit of time in AAA.
Yeah. And but then you started playing, and I'm not sure. I think at the time was it Can-Am?
Yep, yeah, that's when the
Like
Can-Am was one of the places to play, you know, in the early 2010s in
yeah,
that time frame.
and now the Can-Am is actually the Frontier League. And I mean, just I know how you are as a person, but like some people, like you go to these different experiences and different places of like playing professionally, whatever it is, and it's like, all right, don't big league this person. And you see a lot of different people and they're just big leaguing everybody.
Yeah, well, the thing too is like with accomplishments, success, money, with accolades.
That's the bad yeah.
And I'm a big fan in it doesn't change you. It exposes who you're not allowed to be yet.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're not willing to donate $10 out of 100, you're not going to donate 100,000 out of 1,000,000. It's not going to change. You're not going to change with the money now that you have it. So the little deeds you do when you have nothing are going to be the same deeds that you do when you have money. And a lot of people will blame that, well, if I had more money, I would do this. And it's like, but would you give your last dollar to someone? Would you buy someone McDonald's breakfast knowing they're only going to eat the sausages?
Yeah.
That was you.
Yeah, it was. And
It's
get a
the,
big breakfast and just eat the sausage.
yeah, I'm like, dude, why don't you just order the sausages? But for me, it didn't matter because the idea was I'm going to buy you breakfast anyways, regardless of what you do with it, like, because I care about you. So if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to have type of thing. But and I say this when you're in your walks of baseball, you're going to have people who big league each other. You're going to have people who are very humble. I've had some of the most amazing teammates. Dimitri Young was for the Washington Nationals in the late 2000s, was probably the pillar of how to act as a big leaguer. He was the guy that we would go out to eat during spring training and he would have his own group and stuff like that. But when he saw a table of minor leaguers, he knows you're not making any money. You know, in spring training, I think you're making $10. When I played, let me say that. When I played, you were making about $10 a day, and it was like $3 a day in clubby dues. So you had $7 a day to your name. There was no money for minor leaguers in spring training unless you were in AAA, and then you got like $50 a day if you didn't have big league time. Let me definitely express that. But yeah, you weren't making any money. All of your money came from your off-season work type of thing. So he would pay for the entire table's meal and pay for the tip. And Steve Lombo was that way. I have a buddy, Seth Bynum, who was the same way. When I moved up to AAA, he took care of like everything. Garrett Mock was that way. There's a number of people that ended up making it to the big leagues too, and you're like, it kind of makes sense because that's how they carry themselves. So it's like if you went back to Randolph or Holbrook or CM or one of the high schools or middle schools that you went to and started giving back. It sets the tone for who you are and what you believe, regardless of you playing professional baseball or you were someone who says that you were, you almost went pro but you hurt your arm.
I remember it was about 11 o'clock at night because we went into extra innings, and I'm in New Mexico. It was like my first week there. Again, you go to spring training and you kind of, like you said, you kind of get that group going. And then again, I was 21, 22, I think, my first year of pro ball, and I didn't have my car. And this guy, David Gates, he got drafted. He went to Texas Tech, drafted by the Rangers, and he kind of like took me under his wing and showed me the ropes. And that's you know at pro ball, it's like maybe we just talked about is big league and someone. That guy could have big league, but he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely. We had this guy that played for Lexington Legends and big catcher. and he thought that he was the greatest thing. And when and Gates was like, again, I've been drafted, I've done this. Like he was, I remember he was with Josh Hamilton, like kind of like didn't really obviously did show him enough, but like, Nolan Ryan. The reason that he wasn't with the Rangers is because Nolan Ryan was like he kind of big league people, even with like the players. And I'd be sitting there kind of like, why are you throwing that pitch? What makes you work with that? And it's just teaching players like, all right, yeah, you throw a fastball up and in. All right, well, let's think. If we throw a cutter low and away, we can do that. Yeah, your decision isn't wrong, but there's a different way that could also be attacked.
Yeah, and there could be a different way to execute. It's one of the most important things, man. And as a coach, there's such a responsibility, especially if you want to do it the right way, on how your players will remember you. So I was inducted into the Brockton High Hall of Fame in November of 2024.
Yes.
And my thank you speech, I named 40 coaches, starting from, you know, minors and then majors and then pony league and all-star teams, football coaches, all town ball coaches that I had, where it's like, and one of the points that I was really hoping to get across, and I think I did, is it's paying homage to the people that aren't standing up here on this stage. But the 40 coaches that I had, whether it was baseball, track, football, basketball, those are all the people that contribute to where you are, even in very small moments. Coaches that I had for 1 year type of thing, where it's like they'll never get the credit that they deserve. But that night of me giving the speech and I named every single one of them, I was like, tonight they will. And that's why it was recorded and that's why it was put on YouTube, so I could pay. It was a way of paying homage.
There's two coaches, one that makes an impact and one that makes you hate the game of baseball. It's what one do you want to be?
Yeah, exactly. And you get nothing. You get nothing throwing your success in the face of others. When you start seeing that, you're like, all right, there's a piece of you that's missing, because you're taking that out on an 11-year-old kid that probably doesn't care and in another world would probably be your boss where you work. That was some of the joke when we had certain players. I was like, you can make fun of him all you. I said, go ahead and make fun of him. He's gonna be your boss one day.
Yeah, that kid's gonna be a movie star.
Yeah, you think you're gonna be out here going D1 drafted first round. I got some news to break to you. It's very tough.
Very.
It's very tough to be a professional athlete for sure, but professional at anything.
Anything.
You gotta be better than everyone else at your craft. That's very difficult.
Yeah, there's like I
Yeah.
remember we'd always make the joke, and I remember I came off a game. I think I threw it was the Summer Solace. I forget who we played, but I threw a one hitter. I blew it in the seventh inning with 2 outs. And you were coaching. You're like, I know I was so ecstatic because we won the championship. And you're like, hey, there's always an 8-year-old in Taiwan that's working harder than you right now.
Yeah.
Like, hey, thanks, man. Like,
Thanks. You're celebrating now. He's working.
yeah, they're all yep.
I really connected with some of the smaller ball players because it was always the excuse of them being smaller and they were always picked last on the teams and stuff. And I always bet on those guys.
I remember I was in Colorado. One of the coaches said to me, all right, you can feel sorry for yourself for 20 minutes. After that, the game never happens. And he's like, yeah, if you did good, did it bad, doesn't matter. You get 20 minutes after the game, write about it, journal about it, and then flip it. Go home, go to sleep.
It's such a good point. It's such a good point. And that's one of the things, too, that for a lot of baseball players, if you really tap into it, it's so beneficial of having, I call it baseball memory.
Yeah.
And I still do at work today in my career, in my line of work, where I'm like, it's just baseball memory. If you make a bad decision and the outcome didn't come out the way you wanted it to, think about it for a little bit, think about how you could have did it differently and how you'll approach it the next time. But you got to flush it, because that metaphorically, that next ground ball is coming. It doesn't care if you caught the last one or not. It's coming. Statistically, if you boot a ball, probably the next ball is going to come to you. It always finds you.
Always finds that.
Yeah,
always does.
Make your peace. Understand that, yeah, you missed that ball, and you're probably going to have 1,000 more hit to you. Who cares?
Yeah.
Let it go.
And that comes in exactly what you're saying, but that also comes with your teammates, right? And but yeah, don't get down on the kid because he knows he messed up. He didn't wake up and say, you know what, I'm gonna miss this ball today. Right? You gotta be that teammate that you boot a ball, he's there patting your back, hey, let's get the next one. And I think that's where I was. Obviously I was a talented pitcher, I would say. But my thing was mentality. It was like, all right, you make a you make an error, so what? I'm gonna get that next ground ball right to you. Don't worry. I have your back. Like
Yeah,
you have
100%. It goes both ways. It's knowing that the pitcher's like, hey, you're good, man.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, man, it's been awesome chatting, and God, we got to do it more often. You could just talk
Yeah.
about, we could talk about anything, work, the game, anything at all.
And I just want to say, like, I was in front of my dad in this podcast, so it's pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
But
Oh
like
man.
we always talk about like the friendship that me and you have, though. Like you said, you can't even explain it to others, right? I mean, we have been like you have been through a lot. I've been through a lot, and here we are. You know, 2025, still chatting it up about life, baseball, work. You're such a great human being, and Cole is, and Kayla, and your brothers, and all your family
Yeah.
members. I remember I met Cole the first time, couple months ago, and I've always saw you as, again, a role model and just a good, chill guy. And then I remember I drove to your house and I met Cole, and seeing you in that mentality was like, that this is an awesome human being. And I think you're doing just great work right
Thank
now.
you, man. Thank you.
And it means the world that like what you're doing for your family is actually incredible.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. He's my world, man. It's crazy to think too. One of the things that I say most is I thought I was put on this earth to play baseball, but really it was to spend 33 years to prepare myself to be Cole's dad. It's not even close at the end of the day.
Cole's the man, dude. I love
Uh,
when I see your stories on Instagram, or we'll chat about it for a little bit. I'm like, he's where he's like, you're where you're supposed to be. Cole's where he's supposed to be, and Kayla is
yeah,
supposed to be. You know, and I remember like when when Kayla got pregnant, right? I remember talking to Kayla and you, and you're like, all right, this kid's gonna be. I remember saying like he's gonna be drafted, number 1 pick,
yeah.
this stuff, and then it's like, but watching you flip that mentality of, "Alright, you got a lot of work to do. Let's just all come together, be there for Cole."
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing too is you pivot. And I always knew that I would have I would love for Cole to play baseball in some
Yes.
capacity or do anything, whether he wants to run track, whether he wants to play
No.
chess, whether he wants to collect rocks for his entire. It doesn't matter. I want him to find something that he enjoys doing, and I'm going to do it with him,
Yes.
100%. And you start to realize too that baseball matters to me for me. When you love someone, you want whatever's best for them. And I think early on, I always thought Cole's going to play baseball and he's going to play football. And now I think as you age, you just say, I want him to be healthy and happy. I want to be healthy enough and around long enough to see so many of his firsts because it doesn't always happen. And for you, like not everyone is as close as you and your dad. So where your dad, he's spent so much time with you. It's not everywhere. It's really not. What you guys have is amazing. You guys are literally father, son, and best friends, and it's
Yeah.
been that way
Absolutely.
for so long, and it'll continue to be that way as you grow your family, and and if your kid decides to play any kind of sport or they want to be a chess champion, you're gonna be right side by side doing it with them.
Yeah,
You
and I
know.
remember I think Kayla posted it today, but he was playing with like an inchworm, like
Yeah,
a
he's
cat.
playing with a caterpillar. Yeah, black and
Yeah, and it was like it was just amazing to see, like, just because how much effort you guys put in because you love Cole, and yeah.
oh yeah. Thank you. No, there's no days off, man. We are locked into everything he's doing. I remember we were outside of the house. I'll finish it up with this quick story. We were outside of the house, and we see this frog, and I'm like, "Hey, pick it up. So he picks up the frog and he's just walking around with this frog. And I'm like, let's go show mom. And she's like getting ready for work and stuff. So we walk in and he's just walking in with this frog. And she's like, what is that? She thought it was a rock and it jumps out of his hand. And she's like, ah. And he's just playing with the frog in the house. I'm like, all right, buddy, we got to put it back outside. He loves animals. He loves nature. He is one with earth. It's amazing. So
Fantastic, man.
but yeah, we're gonna have to catch up. It's gonna be relatively soon because we could talk forever. So yeah, enjoy your trip to Connecticut tomorrow, man.
I'm gonna need it.
Yeah. Dude, thank you. I appreciate having you on, man. I love you. Tell the family I said hi.
I will. I'm sure they'll be watching soon.
Oh, absolutely, man.
All right.
All right, man. Take care.
See. Bye.